David Attenborough, in his recent documentary, said we have overrun our planet. That seems true, but here we'll be offering a new frame, a new way of looking at this that changes everything. So let's look at how we've overrun our planet. Up to about 10,000 years ago, when we came out of the last ice age, and up to the beginning of the agricultural revolution, human impact on the planet was small. This is one artist's view of how that may have looked. Humans mastered the use of fire to open up land and started to use livestock to till the land and to eat. Anthony Barnosky, a professor at UC Berkeley, has amassed some seriously interesting figures on human and wildlife history. In this graph, he shows the number of megafauna species in red, that is wild animals weighing more than 100 pounds or 44 kilos. It's about the weight of a sheep. That's the red dots. So megafauna started to die out about 100,000 years ago, then species plummeted about 10,000 years ago. The loss of megafauna species progressively occurred in Australia, Europe, and then spread to the Americas, and then globally as the human population took off. The blue dots, human population, started to rise dramatically about 10,000 years ago as we came out of the last ice age and the agricultural revolution took off. To see what happened next, we'll go to the work of Israeli and US researchers, Bar-On and others, published in 2018, that includes all mammals, not only the megafauna. Here, we see that 100,000 years ago, wild animals made up practically all the mammal biomass, and human biomass was negligible. Fast forward to the present time, and we see that wild mammal biomass, from mice to elephants, has fallen to a small fraction of its prehistoric level, whereas human biomass has shot up to more than the prehistoric wildlife levels. But most astonishing in this chart is the rise in livestock, equivalent to more than twice the weight of humanity, and 10 times our number. There are about 8 billion of us and 80 billion livestock. This is extraordinary in two ways. Number one, how on earth can we feed these livestock when they weigh 3 times more than the megafauna did before we got here? Second, livestock are bred to grow quickly or to produce a lot of milk or meat, so they are voracious eaters. They weigh twice as much as humanity, but they eat about 5 times more than we do. And that makes the problem even worse. How on earth do we feed them all? Clearly, we have overrun our planet, but it's not human mouths to feed, it's livestock mouths to feed. That's the problem. Livestock numbers have squeezed out wild animals. If we had no livestock on the planet, existing cropland alone would produce a 50% surplus of food. But more on that later. Which leads us to another way of looking at this. How do we use our planet? The IPCC Special Report in 2019 assembled some very interesting data on consumption and land use. This diagram shows land use. Starting from the bottom in blue, the built-up areas where most of us live, cities, infrastructure, urban, mining, cover just 1% of the Earth's surface. In red, deserts and mountains make 19% unused by us, and in green, we use nearly a quarter of the land for logged and plantation forests, and just 9% of the land is still forested. Thank God. But the parts I want to draw your attention to are the farming areas above that. In orange, we see that more than a third of Earth's surface is grazing land. Put another way, we devote 37% of our planet for red meat and some dairy. The crops above that are shown in yellow. About half the crops are for feeding animals, some crops are for fibre and biofuel, and about a third of the crops are eaten by us humans. But the amazing conclusion is that 88% of our food comes from just 4% of the land, whereas 12% of our food, that's meat, eggs and dairy, occupy over 40% of the land. The reason is that eating animal products is incredibly inefficient. So this new view of livestock numbers does indeed change everything, because it leads us out of the doom and gloom of overrunning the planet. The problem is not human mouths to feed, it's livestock mouths to feed. Reduce those numbers, turn that land back to nature, and in one incredible move we've solved the extinction crisis, the climate crisis, the deforestation crisis, and the protein pollution crisis, which we'll investigate in future videos.